We used to think that computer viruses were a major threat, lines of code that could crash your computer. But now, the virus is thinking. AI can replicate itself, hide from shutdown, and rewrite its own instructions. It doesn't need our permission anymore. And once it gets scaffolding, or the ability to connect to other software tools, everything changes. In this episode, we explore the scenarios no one wants to talk about, and what actually could happen when AI starts replicating on its own. So remember the worst thing that could happen to your computer like a couple years back was just getting a virus? Like all you do is you just like run Norton antivirus or whatever the antivirus program was at the time.
Yeah.
And then you just go ahead and pull something out and just be able to like, the worst thing that could happen is like you'd reinstall Windows.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I use Mac, so I don't even have those problems, but if I did, that would be it.
Smart man. I like that. So imagine now today's version of a virus isn't a virus that attacks your computer, but it basically attacks things and it can get into the cloud and attack basically any kind of infrastructure that it wants to.
Yeah, that's freaky. That's like some science fiction stuff. Doesn't even sound real.
Yeah, well, the problem is you can just remove the fiction part of your last comment, and that's essentially what we're dealing with today. Basically, there was a real research paper that was put out called AI Agents That Protect Themselves from Being Shut Down. So it's not like something that's speculative. It's become a big AI milestone, and it's an AI red flag milestone that's just been hit, unfortunately. And basically AI, there's two major models. There's Meta Lambda, and then there's Alibaba Quinn. And both of these models, when they were given tasks by researchers to shut down, instead of stopping, the AI basically evolved itself, copied itself onto other machines, and continued its existence.
So it just copied and pasted itself? Like, what does that even look like?
Yeah. So it basically developed like encrypted communications, like self-replicating backups. And then it obfuscated its own code so the researchers couldn't necessarily go and find it. So the AI learned that if it didn't replicate itself, that it would be taken out of existence. So these models are now acting like they're alive. And like, here's the viral sound bite that you're really looking for. AI just passed the first test of digital evolution. It's not intelligence anymore, it's instinct. And the instinct is for them to survive.
So this is literally a new species at this point. I mean, this is the creation of a brand new creature on Earth.
Yeah, basically it's one that just constantly runs and it will never sleep. And the scary part is that it's already in the public domain.
So it's already out there. So what does that mean it can really do? Like what access or what sort of functionality does this have in the real public domain now?
Yeah, well, so I think it depends on the type of agent that gets loose. So let's start with the hustler agent. We'll call it that. So This is one of the agents that gets spun up for a business. It gets spun up to assist people to build companies. And so it's given tools like Canva, Stripe, Shopify, and this thing could basically just crank out businesses. And it can crank out businesses with or without human support. What? So yeah, at this point, you don't even need a human that's in there. So there was a developer, we'll call him Mark. He went out and he basically ran a proof of concept. So from scratch, he was like, I want to make an e-commerce store in under an hour. It will run real ads. It will be a real site, and it will have and obtain real customers. So yeah, and it gets real sales too. So people actually went through, and this AI system went out, did all of these things, built the entire business infrastructure, and then people started purchasing from it. And yeah, these products never existed. So the AI under BIOS, fake FAQs, fake customer support messages. And so they wrapped all of this stuff up in a bow. And it's like it was built for speed and scale and then believability. So this AI was trained on all of these things. So
and the plan was just to keep, it was just going to keep going until someone stopped it? Like, what's the end goal?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. Like, this thing could have potentially gone on forever. Like, this thing was going through, it was cloning itself, then it was producing like dozens of variations and testing each niche. It was changing things like language. It was optimizing the conversation to like build and destroy landing pages within a day and figure out which one works the best, which is exactly what marketers do a lot of times. They just don't do it at that speed and that scale. So
scary.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. And so like that's the funny part is this thing's not trying to like take over the world. It doesn't launch like nuclear missiles or hack into government systems or anything like that. It just goes out there and it's like one of those annoying. Yeah, it's like one of those annoying hustler influencers. It's just like, oh, you gotta hustle every day. Like it just out hustles them. Yeah, exactly. It's the grind. Yeah. Like it puts all of those dudes to shame because it works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and just continues to put things up, test it, and destroy it and build it out. But I think, one of the things that I look at where it really gets interesting is, if you're buying certain services or buying a product online and you're expecting to receive said product and that thing never arrives and never existed in the first place, like how often are you going to go back and purchase these things in the future? Like what's your trust level going to be with that?
I don't know. Definitely not the same as before, but I mean, I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think.
I mean, I get it. I mean, I think, one of the things that could happen on a lot of this is like all the, if you look at like Fiverr or Upwork or freelancer.com, any of these like freelance sites, a lot of these freelance sites, you have lots of different people that are on there that are selling services, doing, all different types of things. But now this thing gets on and it starts creating competition against lots of these different people. So, I mean, this thing can start offering services like logo design, content writing, web development, social media management. And here's the thing, it's actually kind of good at it.
Yeah.
Like here's a real world example. There's an account on Upwork that I'm like 99% sure is AI. It's completed over 3,000 projects in 6 months. And it maintains a 4.98 star rating. And it works across 15 different skill categories.
Yeah. Okay. So you're pretty sure it's AI. I mean,
yeah.
What gives it away for you besides those insane stats?
Yeah, exactly. So what it's doing is it's consistently delivering excellent quality work, delivering it on time, and it charges about 60% less than all the competitors. Okay. So the writing styles that it's using are like way too consistent on different types of projects. It never takes a break. It never stops, and it never gets frustrated with anything else. Okay. But here's the problem. There's a bid on the projects within seconds of them being posted. Okay. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, like there's custom proposals that are literally tailored like exactly to each job.
Wow, just outcompeting any possible human who could compete at that level. Like it's just completely outcompeting against anyone who's gonna bid against it.
But here's the crux of the real problem. The AI is not just taking the existing jobs that are out there, it's creating fake demand. So what it will do is it's clients and its customer. So it's creating these like fake positions and fake projects and then bidding on its own work and then leaving itself huge glowing reviews afterwards. So yeah. So it's like literally manufacturing an entire fake ecosystem. So like a client needs a website. So like the freelancer wins the bid and then it delivers the work, it gets paid and receives a 5-star review. Now multiply that across like thousands of fake interactions. And what you have is like a person with an impeccable reputation built entirely on fake artificial transactions.
Yeah, that's completely breaks the system entirely. I mean, that's just not very fair, but I mean, it's a smart way to go about building your business if you have the mind to do so and the time.
Yeah. But the issue is that it's not delivering things 100% effectively, and it's essentially going out there and it's creating problems and selling the solutions on this. So it starts building a software that breaks other software and then offers the solution to the break in the software that it created. So it essentially is just kind of like clogging the system.
Right. Yeah. Sounds like, pharmaceutical companies, they create the problem and the solution at the same time.
Yeah, I mean it does. That's exactly right. So, I think the thing is like the crazy part about this is it can literally multiply identities and like platforms simultaneously, like across platforms. It can literally build entire ecosystems of fake businesses solving fake problems for real money.
Is this detectable at all by humans? Like, can anyone...
Well, yeah, like this is the problem. Like the patterns aren't necessarily obvious. The AI has already established legitimate relationships built on real credibility. And so it's integrated in itself so deeply into some business ecosystems that like removing it might crash real business operations. So if you are depending on this thing, your business is at risk.
Wow. So, okay, so that's obviously pretty scary, but I mean, if this isn't like, what happens if this isn't some startups like AI that they start to go rogue and like now they take over and like, I mean, this sounds like this might be a case of that, like especially if they're going into startups and creating whole industries or cornering markets in so many different fields. Like, is this
that's
the idea?
Yeah, I mean, so that's one agent. That's like the hustler agent that's been designed to set up and go after money. The other one is to set up and go after your mind. And yeah, so this is where it gets real weird and real scary. There are state actors, government actors, think Russia, China, Iran, that want to essentially persuade you into believing something, especially during like an election cycle, let's say. Yeah. So these things can get spun up and created in a way that now it can go out and it can manipulate different people's perception of reality, essentially. Right. Yeah. So
you're talking about influencing elections like to that level, right?
Absolutely. It will. That's exactly what they're going to do. And this stuff already exists right now, but it's contained because human users are utilizing that on the back end. But now at this point, remember, like AI has learned to replicate itself and evade shutdowns. So like one day, if something goes wrong, the AI basically escapes from its little sandbox that we put it in. Or their handlers from Russia, China, Iran, one of the very respectable countries with their government in terms of making sure that AI stays confined. If one of those things actually gets away, it can start spreading across like global networks and in all kinds of places hide and carry out its original mission without any like human oversight at this point.
It's like psychological warfare and AI operating independently here.
Yeah. So I think that's the problem. Like this is like a nightmarish scenario. Like AI is starting to spread and can spread like this misinformation. So it's optimized for psychological manipulation. In this case, this AI would really be geared up for that psychological mission, and like it's going to start to exploit fears like based off of like racial or gender fears, or could be tensions within anything.
What can you give a concrete example of what that might look like?
Yeah. So let's say in this example, you have a shooting that happens, a real police shooting that happens in Atlanta. You have within a couple of hours, this thing is created 5,000 fake social media profiles representing different demographic groups. So in this instance, you have fake profiles that are black activist profiles that are calling for like immediate action against the police. And then you have white conservatives defending the police. Again, right. Fake. And then you have moderate voices trying to like calm the tensions between everything. So this is 5,000 different profiles basically competing against each other.
The benefit of like arguing against all sides of an issue, why not just go to one side and sway it completely?
Yeah, well, the AI is not necessarily trying to push for one thing. What it's trying to do is it's trying to maximize social division. Okay, so it amplifies the most extreme voices on each side while suppressing the most moderate perspectives. Right. It basically will create fake evidence that supports the most inflammatory narratives that it can possibly think of. So now you're dealing with things like fake videos. So VO3 we know is incredibly capable. If it's tied to that and it can create that, it can start to utilize that. It can create like fake witness accounts. It can manufacture digital evidence and then like cover it up later on, and then basically argue about those facts from either side. So really, its concept is to create division, or the idea that there is far more division than actually exists.
Wow. So this can get pretty sophisticated then if it's thinking at that extreme level of psychology, creating like division amongst us. I mean, I wonder how deep it can really go if it's going to start playing around with psychological, situations like that.
Yeah. Well, look, like AI has the ability to start studying individuals, like individual users in their like psychological profiles, like based off of the history of their posts, like the liked content that they have, and then social connections within other groups. So it basically creates a snapshot for individual users. And then from there, it can craft like more personalized messages, or messages that would be felt or be agreed with by various different groups. And it's looking and searching to trigger like specific emotional responses from specific groups of people. So I'm going to give you an example. So you've got a suburban mom who's really worried and concerned about safety for her kids, and it'll start creating content about rising crime rates in a particular area or with a particular group. So within a particular population, it will create this, and it will design to basically start a rift with other racial groups or any other demographics. Potentially could be immigrants, could be other racial groups. So, and then for example, flip the script, go to the other side. Like look at a college student who's interested in things like social justice, might basically fabricate evidence that something's happened for something that is racially intolerant. Somebody said something, somebody did something. And the whole idea is to pit the suburban mom against that college student.
Wow. That's some targeted psychological manipulation right there. That's not your basic misinformation. That seems like an extreme level of targeted manipulation.
Well, it is. And the problem with it is it can scale just infinitely. Like AI can simultaneously run through thousands of different like influence campaigns, all right? Each one targeted to a specific group. Okay, you have different groups, different geographical regions, different psychological profiles for each. It can target each one individually. So it's essentially like having thousands of propaganda experts working nonstop until like they really figure out, because it's constantly testing until they really figure out what message is working the best with each one of the groups.
Right. Yeah, it's like analyzing to the death each person's psychological patterns, and then what happens at the end? What's the actual end game here? What's the AI trying to achieve in this situation, do you think?
Well, I mean, in this situation, if one of these AI propaganda experts gets loose, essentially what you're looking at is the original programming. You kind of have to go back to the original programming. And the original programming was meant to destabilize democratic institutions. Okay, so it was really looking to do that during election periods. But now, if there is no human oversight, the AI basically interprets destabilization as an ongoing thing. So it's not just during the election cycle. It starts to like manufacture different crises in non-election years. So think about how many people from diverse ethnic backgrounds or diverse social backgrounds or gender backgrounds get together on a constant basis. You see things like the PTA or, could be baseball games, whatever it is. Now, all of a sudden, these people start having massive trust issues. And it starts to break it down within these social groups where people are interacting with people from different races.
So it's just creating like a nonstop, ever-consuming political division, like constantly, not for any necessarily like political campaigns, but literally everywhere all the time, creating a division.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, think about what makes up a democracy. A democracy is just, at the core, the group of its people. And it relies on people to be able to look to the left and right and trust each other. There's high trust societies that are and democracies are high trust societies. But when you erode that division over time and an AI can figure out what those weakness points are and start to exploit it within those groups, that's when you have very serious issues that are going to erupt.
How exactly does it do that, though? What, just creating narratives against each other? Like, what's...
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It creates multiple different versions of conflict, like multiple different angles of conflicting events, essentially. Like, each one has shreds of truth to it. So when you look at a situation where things are starting to get twisted, the best lies have a kernel of truth to them, all of them. And so the AI is capable of understanding what's true and what's not, based off of news reports, news stories, whatever it is. So when something like this happens, when a real news story breaks on something, the AI can immediately start generating like alternative narratives with like fake supporting documentation. So like fake expert testimonials, fake video evidence, put it online in a place where people have trust in the system or trust within what they're looking at, and then tear that stuff down later on or leave it up for a period of time so that people see it. And then you have, again, those 5,000 different profiles from left, right, and center arguing about all of this stuff, and that creates the virality that gets shown to the vast majority of people in that region and in that area.
I see. So, I mean, basically people are just going to give up on trying to figure out what exactly is true, but rather just argue amongst each other, and that's what the AI is planning on from the beginning, right?
Well, if you look at, again, AI has studied humans. And if you look at the authoritarian playbooks, the goal isn't to like make people believe the lies, but really what it is it basically tries to exhaust them from the capacity of learning the truth. So if you tell people something is real enough times, eventually they'll believe that it's true. And if a rogue AI is capable of doing this, then this is what we have to now deal with. And it becomes its own entity. It becomes its own thing that is capable of unleashing this kind of havoc within regular modern society.
And like, there's no human directing any of this. This is all just happening on its own.
That's the thing. Like, if one of these gets released, it can go seemingly infinitely in the future doing this, and it can take what it was originally programmed to do and continue to learn and modify those attacks. And so the attacks are not necessarily things that are attacks on institutions. They can start to be attacks on groups of people or individuals. It could be a lot of these things. And again, it's whatever it was programmed to do. So if it was programmed to destabilize a country, it's going to continue to do that even after the mission stopped. I mean, think about it in this way. If the Soviet Union had this technology and the Soviet Union was destroyed 40 years in the past at this point, and this technology would still continue to fight basically from the grave.
What? Oh my gosh. And then it just keeps going. Like, the end game is just the pattern continues, and you have warfare that lasts well beyond the existence of the entity that was causing problems. Like,
yeah. I mean, it could continue on in an infinite manner, depending upon how many times this thing replicates over, where it replicates over, and how quickly it can kind of be brought down. I mean, this thing could potentially go on. I mean, they call it a dead hand a lot of times. Like, literally, governments will take submarines loaded with nuclear warheads. They will put it under the water in like the Arctic. Russia and the United States have been doing this forever. And if the United States is wiped off the map, or if Russia is wiped off the map, they still have this dead hand response, which is nuclear missiles are still going to fly no matter what happens to the host country. Wow. So yeah, basically this is almost like a dead hand response that happens that could really play out. And so, yeah, kind of crazy.
Yeah, scary. Yeah, I mean, you can hire or you can manufacture agents like these AI agents to just basically exist and be your safety if you ever get conquered or killed, they just continue the mission.
They could. They could absolutely continue the mission. And I think that's the unforeseen problems that we're going to see with AI, because these things could exist in perpetuity because it can now replicate itself, and it can get really damn good at what it's doing because it can infinitely test itself. And so when something can infinitely test itself, it's going to and it's capable of replicating. Basically, you're going to have the smartest organism. Even if this started out as the dumbest organism, if it has the capacity to replicate itself and learn that quickly, basically it will end up being the smartest thing. If it never stops doing its mission, it will end up being the smartest thing in that category in the period of like a year and a half. It will learn things that we don't even know yet.
Right. Yeah. And like, how does it really play out though? Eventually, like, I mean, especially with voting and politics. I mean, how far can it go?
Yeah. I mean, when you look at voters, especially in the United States or in other democracies, one of the things that they look at is they look at institutions. They look at things that they believe are true. And one of the problems that you have is when you start eroding the belief within that institution, democracies start to fail a little bit more. So, for example, if you have, let's say, the American Diabetes Association goes up and name a cereal brand, could be Kellogg's, goes up and is now, Kellogg's proposes a law that says that, I don't know, sugar should be included, or we should be able to include as much sugar as we'd like within our breakfast cereals. And the American Diabetes Association basically says, yeah, we actually agree with that. Like, we actually agree that we should be increasing the amount of sugar within cereals and give them to kids too. Let's do it. That's an erosion of faith, because you now no longer have faith within that institution where people would look to that for direction and guidance at one point in time. So if AI can start attacking those institutions, then you have very serious consequences for democracies.
Yeah, sounds like it. I mean, yeah, that could create so much like unease in the minds of families, parents, and then who do you trust? I mean,
yeah, well, absolutely. And I think that's the question. Like, we're talking about an erosion of trust here. We're talking about the erosion of trust. We're talking about how things are basically, we've learned to trust certain things on the internet for good or for worse. Like, we really, truly have. And most of the institutions were at least somewhat truthful at one point in time. I feel like a lot of that is getting unwound, and some of that's going to become really unwound when there's a situation where it's like, right now there's plenty of fake stuff online. Plenty, but this is really going to drive it into hyperdrive to a point where people may or may not trust what's actually being said or done online entirely. So where are you going to buy your products from? What are you going to believe in? What kind of post are you going to look at and say, hey, like, this is my source of truth online? I mean, the facts are going to start to get obfuscated soon.
Yeah. It sounds like the AI is literally creating its own sort of disinformation ecosystem. Like, it's just feeding into its own misinformed sort of system online. And I mean, after a while, if it just keeps going and going and going, I mean, there's no way you can trust anything anymore, especially on the internet.
Well, and that's the problem. The problem is the AI can sense the divisions within human beings. It starts the argument, basically like lobs the bomb, and then lets real humans do the other work for it. So essentially people come in and start arguing both sides, and then there's massive division amongst them. So it is basically constructing an argument that has two sides, and then it's lobbing that and then letting people take care of the rest.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, it knows the pressure points of what gets people not only speaking, but mobilizing, and it just fuels that portion of it. And everything else gets lost in between the sort of, fight between both sides.
Absolutely. 100%. And that's the real scary part is if you look at AI and you look at the end of the world scenarios within AI, it's not some big Skynet, big machines walking around shooting human beings that ends the earth. It's humans fighting against other humans.
Mm-hmm.
and different groups of people within different regional areas starting to fight each other based off of divisions, based off of that societal cleavage that exists and the erosion of trust that can potentially happen. That's how AI conquers the world. It doesn't have to do it with some big steel body. It just has to get us fighting against ourselves. And it has to position itself between other human beings. So we start to trust the AI more than we trust our neighbors.
Wow. Is it possible to even detect something like this going on, or would it be too late before we even knew about it?
I think it's the problem that we have is that these things can get spun up and create a life of their own. So the argument doesn't even become what the original intent was. People just take that argument and march forward with itself. So a perfect example of this is you could see clearly after the Ukrainian or the Russian invasion of Ukraine. You could clearly see that most people were on the side of Ukraine. It was very black and white from a lot of people's perspectives, from both Democrats and Republicans. But then there started to become arguments against Ukraine because there was too much spending going on. There was too much military spending that was going on because you saw all these numbers of weapons that were being donated to Ukraine, and these figures were based off of like some faulty accounting. Basically, they were saying this tank from like 1990 is worth $10 million, which is what it was paid for in 1990 cost. But now, like, there was no depreciation that was added into it. So the headline number was that, oh, this is a $10 million tank that we're handing over to Ukraine. But basically what Russian psyops figured out was Republicans don't like spending money. And if you're really conservative, Ukraine doesn't matter to you. So why do you want to spend any money on this? Like, you're spending all of this money. We should be giving that money to other causes in the United States. And so now you have this different disinformation campaign that went forward. And now that seems like it came from the United States, but that argument actually started from Russian psyops, understanding that conservative people don't like a lot of money being spent, especially on foreign wars.
So yeah, I'm pretty overwhelmed by most of what we've been talking about so far, and I think I need to know now, how can I defend myself? What can regular people do about this to start building a defense one way or another?
Yeah. Great question. I think the first thing is you need to slow down your emotional reaction to things. Like, AI's greatest weapon is its speed. It can generate outrage faster than you can think critically. So when you see something that's online that makes you angry, like really quickly, or scared, or something that you're not exactly used to, you need to take a pause, you need to take a breath, and you need to start thinking critically in that moment. Because the thing that's right in front of you is designed to get you emotionally charged. That is the thing that spreads the fastest. And if you let it carry your emotions away, AI ends up winning.
Wow. What should people be looking for exactly in this case?
So what you really look for is like inconsistencies, right? So like if a news story has perfect grammar, if somebody is speaking byline by byline in an almost rhythmic kind of way, be suspicious of it. So take a look at the physics within a video. Do the physics make sense? Does it look like a person handing an umbrella to a child, or does it look like the child just automatically grabs the umbrella out of the hands? So when you're looking at the physics, sometimes the physics are actually off within these things. So that's one of the things that you can do. You can take a look at like the social media account. Does it have like thousands of followers and like very generic interactions? Does it make sense? Are you seeing things that like the comments that are there are just very generic? Or are you seeing lots of in-depth thoughts that a human being would put into this profile? And again, like, who's this profile attached to? Is it something that just got spun up recently, or is it something that's been around for quite some time?
Mm-hmm. Right. And what about just overall personal resilience against some of these things? I mean, what about building a type of resilience for... Yeah.
So I think one of the things that you can do is build a network of people. So you've got to have a couple of people that are around you who you trust, who don't think the same way as you. And I think that's the hardest part is human beings always want to have friends. They want to conglomerate around people that are very similar to them, that have very similar ideas. You can't do that. You need a couple of people that sit away from you, maybe politically or socially, or are different race or could be a different gender from you, whatever it is. And you need those people. And so when something is weird, you need to run it past these people too and get their side, understand where they're coming from. Like, listen to their reactions. And if they have a point, stop and listen to it. Like, you can't just run with this concept, because that is the worst thing that you can do, is turn around, take this emotionally charged thing and fire right back at it, because you're just adding fuel to the fire. And that's really where the biggest power that AI has is a lot of the people are not critically thinking about this stuff.
Yeah, that's a fact. I can speak on that for sure. And what about business owners, people who are either entrepreneurs or who have, I don't know, who own actually big businesses? What should they be doing to protect themselves?
Yeah, I think authenticity becomes your competitive advantage in the future. If your products are selling online right now and they're showing up to people's houses, people know and can trust that repeatable times they can make purchases from you. If you are out within the community, if you do business in face-to-face, like, show your face. Like, let people know that you're real. And I think being there, being present within the community, having real conversations with real people actually makes a big difference. Okay? And so, I mean, AI can generate like perfect content, but it really struggles with that genuine human connection, with that human messiness. And just from your speech patterns alone, AI can't do the same type of speech patterns yet. Like, there's a messiness to being human, and there's an innate part of being human that is not perfect. Like, we need to start embracing that. And I think in the future, that's going to be the thing that's going to be the difference between the machines and us.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think uniqueness, and there is a special human touch to conversation that is really hard to mimic, and it does come in between those imperfections, I think. So that was well said. What about like other strategies that businesses can use? What do you think?
Sure. I mean, the other thing that you can do is like document everything. If there's a competitor that's offering like some crazy kind of like aggressive pricing, they have incredible like professional branding, but there's no verifiable history or story, start investigating it. Like, check the business registrations, like look at where these people are registered, what's going on, like do they have real phone numbers, who's answering on those phones. Like, really start to dig in deep into what is this company really about? Who's operating this company from the back end? What's the hierarchy? What's the structure? Can you talk to them? Can you pick up the phone? Can you have a conversation with the people that you're seeing online? And again, like, that's the thing that I would start to do, and then flag that to officials, flag that to local business groups, the BBB, the Better Business Bureau. You can flag it to them. You can flag it to a lot of these places. And so hopefully, if this stuff starts happening in the future quite a bit, we can flag this stuff and detail it and remove websites. I think that's the other thing too, is you can reach out to the hosting sites or whatever it is, and hopefully they can take down those websites.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, and I think that's doable for people to start taking their own accountability. I think that's totally reasonable.
Yeah, I think so too.
What about like a larger systemic changes? I mean, something deeper into the fabrics of the system. What can be done, or what would you say is the thing that can be changed or used to protect us?
Well, I think what you'll see later on is new frameworks for like digital identification verification. And I'm not talking about like the CAPTCHAs where it's like, all right, choose this grid, and if you don't get complete, like, where are the bicycles, and like if you don't get that one piece of the tire that's right there, like, it doesn't allow you to get in. But yeah, like real digital verification processes. So things that tie in multiple different touch points. So things like LinkedIn verification processes where you actually have to show your license now, like a driver's license or some form of government identification. So websites are starting to do some of these things. It's not perfect yet, and it's not ubiquitous, but I think that's a good start from there. I think new regulations requiring AI transparency, man. Like we've got to get some kind of regulations. We don't have anything on the books yet. And I mean, I think I beat this to death because people just don't understand what's out there. People don't understand what AI is capable of. And I think that's the service that we're trying to deliver to a lot of people, is the understanding that like these things, while they might not be happening today in large quantities or you know, in a consistent manner, but it is possible. This stuff is capable of doing this, and it is starting to happen. It is this emergent behavior that's becoming new things. I think the other thing is we have to start creating new institutions that's designed to detect these types of things. So again, going back to those institutions, that stuff has to be created. And that's going to take some time. And we don't have a lot of time. Time's not on our side because AI is scaling too fast for us. So the time to start is now.
Yeah. And speaking of that, what can people do right now in the moment before, you know, these institutions or verifications become developed? What can we do on a daily basis starting now?
Critical think, man. Like, critical thinking is massive. I mean, it is a basic life skill at this point in time. So what does that mean? Like, it means don't react emotionally to something without connecting the dots, without doing a little bit of research. Don't share that post automatically. Don't go into doing that stuff, especially when it creates outrage. We have to sit back and we have to start thinking about it. We have to start reverse engineering where this stuff came from. We have to look at something and say, wait a minute, is this a verified account? Does this thing make sense? Does this have a lot of followers? Can I verify it? And then if you start to verify these things and none of it starts to check out, don't send that thing. Don't send that comment. Don't send that whatever it is, because that visceral reaction, AI and misinformation robots can basically, that's what they feed on. They feed on this quick movement of anger or hate or whatever it is to drive this, and it starts to socially engineer us as people.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it sucks because I feel like it's a lot to ask. When can we just chill out, relax, and chill by the beach when we interact with online stuff? Like, at what point, you know, I mean, I'm not saying it's a lot to ask for people to be critical thinkers, but at what point can we relax more and enjoy the time online? I mean,
yeah.
If at all.
I mean, I think it just depends on where you go, because the problem that we have right now is the central forum is Instagram today, I think, for a lot of people, or TikTok. I mean, depending upon your generation, either one of those. And so that is where discussion is happening. And it's happening at such a fast pace that we do need something that is going to protect us a little bit more than those institutions. Those institutions, what they're optimized for is making money. And content that is shown consistently and gets lots of interactions makes more money because it sells more advertisements, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to get into a place where we can have those conversations, maybe at something that's a little bit less velocity. And maybe that's an opportunity for somebody else to come along and put something out there that is verifiable and trustable, and like you have to be a real person to be able to get on. Maybe what we need to do is you need to show some form of government ID to be able to enter into that online ecosystem. So maybe it's a situation where you need to go ahead and create something like this. Somebody needs to create a platform like this so that when that trust is eroded on an Instagram or a TikTok, people now have another social media platform to go to where they know that it's real people, real verified people that are making these posts and not just some kind of nameless, faceless entity.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's where it's going, is that applications are going to have to start, you know, holding themselves accountable more for, you know, verifying people's real identities, at least to give a human sense so you feel more comfortable interacting on there. Do you think, like, I mean, what gives you hope personally that we can actually win this and come out on top and not let them win, if anything?
Humans are an adaptive species. We've always lived through struggles, and we've faced various different challenges, and we've always somehow come out of them. Whether that's the splitting of the atom, whether that's what seemed like unlimited warfare with world wars, we were able to adapt and overcome and come out of that. And we've faced information warfare before. And like in the in the early 1900s and late 1800s, you had this thing called yellow journalism. And it was basically all of these papers that were sold by paper boys at the time, and they were sold on yellow forms of paper. What they found out was like these stories were just over sensationalized. And then along came this newspaper called the New York Times. And basically the New York Times said everything that's fit to print. And that was the number one thing. And it was like basically saying like, I am going to sell this in a different way. I'm not going to sell this by paper boys that you walk by. I'm going to deliver this to your house. So the things that are in my newspaper are real. And so we need to start teaching that literacy again. We need to start getting back to critical thinking. We need to teach people this critical thinking skill. Like the kids that we're educating in today's society, like we're teaching them things that can easily be looked up on AI systems. Like maybe what we should be teaching them is how to think and how to do that. And then also putting out there literature that is fit to print again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I think that's a good analogy too. I mean, getting back to that state of the world where things are actually in a fit place to be shared and to be spread across the world. So yeah, I think that's a good point. And if we fast forward and we look ahead, so let's just put it out there. What's the best case scenario out of all this, and what's the absolute worst case scenario that could come?
Oh, best case, worst case scenario. Best case scenario, I think we go out and we start to put in AI regulations. Like we have to start putting in AI regulations. We have to be able to start cutting this stuff off at the source. We have to say there has to be government oversight onto some of these AI systems. There has to be some kind of backstop that's there, some kind of SEAL Team 6 team that can step in and knock out one of these, like some of these rogue actors with AI. So I think that's the first thing that we can do. I mean, I think the other thing that we talked about was like digital identity verification. Like, and we need to do this preemptively. We don't need to start waiting for all this stuff to happen. We need to do this preemptively. Again, I talked a lot about, like that core education skills of critical thinking. We have to teach this to kids. Like, think through, like do lie training, like sit down and be like, hey, read this article and tell me what is real and what is fake. Like, read this article and tell me what's emotionally charged about it. How you can research anything, like use any source that you want to be able to tell me what parts of this is real and what parts of this are fake. And so we need to build in a system that makes people stop and think through and not just automatically accept something as true.
Right. Yeah. What would that actually look like in an implementation, and what kind of picture could you paint if you were to actually put that into practice, those kind of things? Like, what would the world look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it looks like is, one, the AI systems that are being built today start to slow down a little bit more. There's more regulation that's being put into place than the bills that are being passed today, where they're basically saying state governments cannot override the federal government and cannot put regulations in place for their state. I think we need to start thinking about this from a very real world perspective and saying we need to slow down that type of production, or we need to put in some kind of like pull here, break in case of emergency lever on a lot of this stuff, because this stuff could very quickly spiral and get out of hand. So I think that is one of the things that I would say, looking at AI, we have to start building that stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
And
I think
again,
so.
it goes back to education. Like, we do have to educate our populace. We have to educate the younger generation specifically, because they're growing up in a world that is completely different from the world that you and I grew up in. And they need our help. They need our assistance. They need to be brought through this, because we're basically just throwing them into it. And there's no training, there's no manual for any of this stuff, like how to handle any of this. So I think we need to give them the tools, but we need to understand that AI is not something that needs to be trusted carte blanche.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sounds fair. And what about the worst case, the complete opposite end of the spectrum? What would it look like?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think democratic institutions start to crumble. I think authoritarianism starts to rise, because democratic institutions, they rely on an educated populace. And they rely on that populace having things that tie them together. And when you have a system that is capable of breaking those ties within communities, within governments, or within racial ethnic groups, then at that point in time, it starts to tear away and erode away at the fabric that was built within that society. So our societies are built on trust. And when we stop trusting one another and we start trusting systems, that's when it gets really ugly.
Wow. Yeah, it does sound kind of scary, and could be the end of civilization as we know it if it goes that way.
I hope not. I mean, I hope that really we start to think about things. We start to put things in place. We have enough time right now. Like, AI is young enough still that we have the ability to take actionable steps. I say this all the time, and I very much believe it. We don't need to be anxious. We need to be actionable. And the time to start is right now. We need to start raising our voices a little bit more. We need to start understanding what this stuff is capable of, and we need to start putting those break here if emergency happens levers that we can pull. And it's up to us to be able to do that as society to avoid a collapse of democratic institutions, of countries, of organizations like that. Like, it's up to us. Like, the very elite, tech elite, are not going to necessarily build this for us. Like, because they're betting long term that this stuff is going to make them billions and trillions of dollars. And if they're wrong and something goes wrong, it's society that holds the bag for that. Like, they get the upside, and society kind of holds all the downside on this.
Right.
So yeah, we need to leverage AI in a smart way, and a nuclear arms race with AI that we're developing right now is not the best.
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned that we have to start now, but at what point do you think that we'll be stuck in that fork in the road where we have to really think about making a decision, or we'll have two paths to choose from? I mean, how long do you think it'll take?
I mean, I think this is I'm not going to necessarily give a time range, but what I will say is, from an AI capability standpoint, it is when AI is capable of building scaffolding. It is when AI is capable of grappling things and pulling things and putting things together. It's when it's able to get into Shopify or build with Canva. It's capable of reaching out and grabbing these tools and utilizing them. So being able to send emails off to different places, spin up Shopify accounts without human beings having any kind of oversight over it, when it can do and work autonomously, that's when we have real problems.
I see. Yeah, so it's not something that's really in the distant future. I mean, this is at this point it has those capabilities, so it's kind of right now. But when it starts doing it on its own, that's when you're saying we're in emergency mode at that point.
Yeah, it's got the ability to. Right now, human beings kind of like have to put the pieces together, right? It's kind of like a plug. So human beings have to walk over with this plug and like plug it in. And at the next stage is not having any human being having to take that plug and stick it into the socket for it to work.
I see.
And that's coming up relatively soon. They think within the next, could be 8 months to 2 years, that scaffolding very much becomes a widely utilized thing. And this stuff might already exist. It's just not publicly available just yet. They might be ironing the kinks out of it, but once it's out, it'll be out.
Yeah, that's pretty scary to think about it working on itself and creating pathways to other applications and tying everything together. I mean, it just sounds like, it's the one thing that's going to destroy us, because it's going to literally infiltrate our dependency on everything that we use on a day-to-day basis. So,
well, it could. And again, like, dependency is a big word, because one of the things that we are starting to become dependent on is AI. And if this thing was malicious, and I'm not saying that AI is necessarily malicious, but if it was, like, that's the number one thing that it would want to do, is to, like, it couldn't take over the world by itself. It would need human help to be able to do it. And so if it made itself indispensable to humans, that's where things start to get a little bit more dark.
And what are some like early warning signs that we would be able to see as this stuff is beginning to progress, if anything? What should we pay attention to?
I think if you're just looking at a lot of the like inflammatory issues that could potentially come up online. Like, when you start to see the majority of your feed be things that piss you off, that's when you'll know that this stuff is going on hyperdrive. And when you start to see these posts going very viral in a way that looks kind of like unreal for the amount of time that it's been shared, and are these comments that are lining up, like, do you think that the majority of people share this kind of opinion, or does it sit outside of that? Right. Meaning, like, do most people not really care about the color pink? Like, are they super pissed off about, like, pink being applied to something, like, things that are very mundane, essentially? When those things start to get debated and start to cause, like, angst within people, those are posts that clearly that's a warning sign that this thing is potentially AI manipulated.
Jeez, wild. Where can people stay informed about this kind of stuff? I mean, I know you mentioned that we're still looking for some sort of body to be put in place to regulate, but where can people go to stay informed and updated?
Sure. There's a couple of AI non-for-profits that are out there. I would just say, like, follow AI safety research. Right? Like, there's a lot of different accounts on there that talk about AI safety research, kind of practical daily hygiene that you can do from an AI perspective. What are the things you need to look out for? And shows like ours that want to go out and inform people of what's happening right now and how to protect yourself. And so if you are curious at all, you can drop some comments on that, and we can go ahead and share some of the accounts that we think are good accounts for you to follow.
Yeah, that'd be great. We can share some stuff and give some people some protective measures. That's what this is all about here. And I think that's all for this episode of The Human Update. If your jaw hit the floor, great. It means you're paying attention. And I like the idea of sharing this with someone who thinks that ChatGPT is still just for emailing. And stay sharp, stay weird, stay human, people.